people still joining us. So I'm just going to get started with a quick little introduction. Thank you for joining us. Happy St. Patrick's Day. My name is Michelle Louderman, and I'm the CAO for Computer Science. So what we're here to talk about today is instructional planning and administration, what we call IPA. On here, on this slide is our web address, ipa.ucdavis.edu. So IPA is actually an AADI project. What is that? It stands for Administrative Application Development Initiative. It was started by Tom Kaiser, who is now retired, but he was the executive assistant dean in the College of Ag and Environmental Sciences. The mission of the group, basically recognizing that there's a shared need for business applications, AADI brings together both the business and the technology partners from across campus to deliver applications to the UC Davis campus community as a whole. The vision, basically the thought is that if you're building a tool, you might as well build it or scale it to the entire campus if there's a need campus-wide. The tools are voluntary to use, and they're at no cost to the departments who are using them. AADI also partners with the AdMan group, and it's through the AdMan group that we actually come up with the tools that people want and need across campus. So other AADI projects have been the online pre-purchasing tool and the academic course evaluations, or ACE. A little bit about the history of IPA. Instructional planning was highlighted as a campus need amongst the unit managers within AdMan. A steering committee was charged to do the IPA project back in October of 2013. We attempted to get some broad representation across campus. We even enlisted the help of Lynn Rabina in the registrar's office. We also had the Organizational Excellence Group come in to help us facilitate and research and develop the process in our plan. We spent much of 2014 and 2015 brainstorming about how departments handle the process of instructional planning. So as you can see, we spent a great deal of time putting together this tool. We did a lot of process mapping. We had many one-on-one conversations to flesh out the various ways that units handle this function. Every department has different needs, and we've kept that in mind when building the tool. I'm the committee chair, and our project manager and technical lead is Jeremy Phillips. He's IT director for Division of Social Sciences. Our program development has been led by Christopher Thielen. He's also in Division of Social Sciences. In fall of 2016, the tool was available for pilot testing to a select group of units, and we've used it to develop our 17-18 teaching plans. So a little bit about the project scope. Early in our brainstorming sessions, we discussed and developed the scope of the initial build of the system. It was clear there's a definite need for automation and that the process for course planning is complex and handled differently from unit to unit. Over time, we hope to add modules, and we'll continue to fine-tune the system as more departments come on board. Right now, the four main pieces to the tool include course offerings, which is basically your list of courses that you're going to offer and the enrollments that you're going to set for those courses for a given year. Then we go into the teaching call. So that's where you're soliciting teaching preferences from your instructors, collecting sabbatical, buyout, leave of absence information. And you can also capture availability or unavailability of the instructors, which you will use in the teaching schedule piece, the course scheduling piece later on. There's also a teaching assignments piece where you're actually matching what the instructor preferences are to what your need is as far as what courses you need to offer. And there's also a course scheduling piece where you actually sit down and develop when each class will be offered, the days and times, and in some cases, some departments are also putting in the building and the rooms that are actually used for those courses. So what can the system do besides those four things that I just mentioned? It does have historical enrollment data. So you can click on a particular class in a particular quarter, and it'll show you a little graph of what the past enrollment has been. And it's a good tool to help you figure out how many seats you're going to set for your classes in the coming year. Information is actually uploaded from Banner into IPA on a regular basis. And there's various reports that will be built into the system. You see some of them there, and the reports will be something that we can build over time and add over time. We are working on other reports. So where we are now, as I mentioned, we have the course offerings, teaching call, teaching assignments, and course scheduling modules of the program built, are currently being used and are ready to be used for a greater group of people on campus. Where are we going? Modules that we're currently developing are the TA call for assignment preferences. It's currently in the works, and we'll actually roll that out pretty soon. Budgeting tool is another piece we're currently working on. And that could mean many things to many people. It just depends on how you work within your college or your unit. Our hope is that we'll actually push data to Banner so that your entry point won't be done twice. You won't be entering your data into whatever system you use to plan your course scheduling and then go into Banner on a quarterly basis and enter your information. The plan is that you enter everything in IPA, and you will push a magic button that will just push it all into Banner. So it will help avoid errors and also the time that it takes to duplicate the entry twice. We're also hoping to do a communications tool. So this will help capture the discussions that you have between the registrar's office and the instructors. So all of that email conversation back and forth about changing enrollment, changing rooms, or instructors wanting to change the quarter that they want to offer a class in. We're hoping that we can capture all of that discussion and conversation within the tool. And so we're hoping that will be an efficiency and a savings in your time and trying to keep track of all the different emails that go across your desk. Before we do a demo, I just want to quickly introduce a few people that are here today that are part of the steering committee that are also going to be available today to answer some of the questions that you might have after the demo. So Jeremy Phillips is here, Tracy Lottie from Physics, Carrie Hassa, School of Education, and Crystal Wintersmith, Biomedical Engineering. This is part of our steering committee, our original steering committee that we put together. There may be others. I know there's others in the room that use the system that may be available to answer some questions as well. So right now we have about 15 actual customers that are using the program, but that represents closer to about 35 department or units because of the various clustering that goes on. So we have a pretty good group of people that are currently piloting the system, using it in various pieces. Some have chose to use only certain modules. Some are using all of the modules in there. Also, what's on here is our IPA address, our web address. So there you can actually go to that web page. You won't necessarily be able to log in yet until you have access, but there's many videos and information about what the system is, what it does, and it actually has some training videos that you can walk through. We've developed training videos for faculty and instructors who are going to actually be using the system, so you can kind of check it out. If you think you're interested in piloting the program or using it, you can email ipahelp@ucdavis.edu, and they will work with you to get trained and set up and all of that good stuff. So I'll go ahead and hand it over to Christopher, and he's going to do a demo for you. And then after the demo, we'll do some question and answers.
Thanks, Michelle, and good morning, everyone. I'm going to show you the live IPA website and walk you through the various features that you've just heard. IPA.UC-Davis is the website, so it's fairly easy to remember so long as you remember that initial IPA bit. And again, here are screenshots, tutorial. There's a contact form. There's a lot here. If you're still not sure and you don't even want to send off that initial IPA help at UC Davis email, you can visit here and make your decision. But this is what it looks like when you log in. I'm going to mention that I'm using fictitious data because, again, this is the real system, so I'd hate to accidentally unassign an instructor. When you first log in as what we call an academic coordinator, which is a role in the system. I know it's not necessarily someone's payroll title, but you get this sort of planning at a glance screen. You can see it's rather empty in my case because, again, I'm a fake department, but it'll be a little more interesting when you log in. One of the first things people do is do their course planning. They simply decide what courses they want to offer and how big those classes are going to be. So here I have a fictitious schedule that we've set up. You can see the name of the course here on the left, as well as the section. And we can scroll down this list. We've decided to offer a lot of art courses for some particular reason last time we gave this demo, as well as computer science, so we're a very interesting department, I suppose. From fall to winter to spring quarter, these numbers here are the seats, just the number of students we want to move through the course, regardless of how many sections it's going to be, whether they're going to be 5 sections or 1 section. And of course, with these little sort of standard computer toolbars up here, I can go ahead and plan other quarters. So if you want to plan summer, you can bring summer in here. If you use the summer quarter, which I've never seen, you can turn that on too. But what we would do is typically just click here on the box and set the number to, whatever it is that we would like. You can see this graph, this very interesting looking graph popped up over here. This is taking a look at, as you can see, Art 2, which is the course I have selected. It's looking at previous fall quarters and analyzing the enrollment for you, so you don't have to go into Campus Data Warehouse to do that. You can see whether your course is getting more or less popular. And there are 2 lines on here, as you can see. So as I hover over, and this is probably a little too small to read, but it's showing me basically the pressure, the number of seats that we asked the registrar for, that they provided space for us, versus the actual enrollment. So in this case, we asked for 50 seats and we got 53 enrolled. So we sort of we undershot there a little bit. The next year we asked for more seats and we got more students. So you can see this is a very helpful planning tool to decide how many seats you're actually going to offer. So in this case, since it looks like we typically do about 50, 55, I'm going to go ahead and just set this to 55. And then over here, I also need to create the section itself. In this case, since it's just a non-alphanumeric course, I can only have 1 section, so I'll go ahead and give it 55 seats. And so that's how you do your course and section planning, more or less. And I'll do another quick example of maybe a larger course with multiple sections. Maybe I'll add it here and keep this interesting department even more interesting. So I'll go ahead and click this green plus button, and you'll see the whole screen becomes muted, and it's clearly directing me over here to the right side, where I'll search for a course. And if the system is not too slow today, as it unfortunately is, St. Patrick's Day is a very popular day to be course planning. Let's do Physics 1A. So I'll select that, and then I'll set the sequence pattern to use the A sequence. Hit Create, and you can see it pops in right there. We can see historical enrollment. So this is a completely different case than art. Physics is more popular than art, at least here at UC Davis. You can see, according to this enrollment graph, we have about 180 students go through. So I'm going to go ahead and set the number to be 180. But with that many students, presumably we're going to need multiple sections. So I can just go in here and create AO1, AO2, AO3. And as I start to set maybe 30 students each, you'll see at the bottom here, I don't know if it's too small for you to read, but it's actually going to add up, based on the 4 sections that you have. You currently have space for 120, but you've asked for 180, so maybe that'll indicate to us that we need a few more sections. And there we go. So this is more or less course planning, and because this is a website, multiple people can log in and look at this, so you no longer have to sort of work with one Excel spreadsheet and then save it, then send it to someone else, or put it on the file share and try not to open it at the same time. You can all just go to IPA because it's 2017 and these sort of things work okay. There are various filters as well, I should mention here. If you have a department that has multiple tracks or divides, partitions your courses in some way, you can go ahead and tag courses. Like you'll see here, this little blue box, I don't know if you can read it, it says dance. This is just a tag that we made up. We can go ahead and say that I would only like to see dance courses, in which case it filters it. So this is a pretty common feature that you'll see in a lot of software. But tagging courses is very useful, and as you'll see soon, when you go into the calendar view, it's almost necessary, because for some departments, putting every single activity on one calendar just becomes a mess. I also noticed one of my developers put a tag here called taco that I think we should have taken out before the demonstration, so I apologize for that. And of course, you can do things like print the schedule if you would like to. If you want to go ahead and repeat the Excel of yesteryear, you can continue to do that. One policy that we have with IPA is that we don't want to become a data silo where all of your data is stuck with us. You can always at any time download your data, get out of it. So if you want to test it and you decide it's not working, you can get everything in Excel form and you're A-okay, and you don't have to repeat any work. So typically, once this is done, a lot of departments will move on to their teaching call. So I'll show you the teaching call next. The teaching call relies on your list of instructors being correct. And this is something that I'll show you really quick. We usually do it during the onboarding process. But we have this workgroup editor over here. I clicked on DSSIT, which is the name of my fictitious department. And you see we have tags, locations, and people. And I'm just going to go straight to people. And this is where we actually plot out who's in our department, who's an academic planner, who are AIs, Federation instructors, Senate instructors, teaching assistants, as Michelle mentioned, is launching very soon. So the teaching call that I'm going to do is based on this data, these 4 instructors that we have teaching those 100 courses or so that you saw on the other screen. So back to the teaching call screen. If I want to start a teaching call, I just hit Add Instructors, because I'm just adding instructors to a teaching call. And I can either click on them individually here, or I can just go ahead and say, please add all of my Senate instructors, or please add all of my Federation instructors. The reason we break it up is some people like to give the Senate sort of first dibs on their teaching call. You can go ahead and set a due date, which is a soft due date, because if they miss their due date, we still need their preferences. So it will email them, though. The system does know if they have not filled out their preferences. It will email them again, which is very nice. It's always lovely when a computer nags you. You can ask over here which terms you want to collect preferences for. So maybe this is going to include summer session, so we can turn summer session on, turn it off. You can turn on and off the ask for unavailabilities. This is very important to some departments, and for other departments, it's very important to not ask for unavailabilities, which is the same as availabilities. We decided to go with unavailabilities because it requires that if you're going to make yourself unavailable, you have to do a little bit more work, and we thought that would be psychologically interesting. And if you'd like, you can have the system send email. That's what this checkbox down here is for. I'm going to leave it turned on because it's nice, but some people perhaps don't want IPA to be emailing people. They want IPA to open up a teaching call, but perhaps at a departmental meeting, you'll simply announce that the teaching call is open. So you have that option here. Then I'll just go ahead and hit send, and you'll see the individuals are immediately added to the list. So this is the list of all the people who are currently being called. It tells you whether or not their preferences are submitted, when the system last contacted them, when the system next plans to contact them, the due date that you set for them. And it repeats this information because you can actually do it very granularly. You can give different people different due dates and that sort of thing. So I need to add myself in order to show you this next part. So there we go. And now switching roles, I'm going to pretend to be an instructor and log into IPA to fill out my teaching call to show you what this looks like. This is the instructor summary, so this is what they see when they log in. It shows them if there are any open teaching calls, and they can view the form, which I'll do in a second. It also shows them any teaching assignments that have been made. So these are not necessarily their preferences. These are things that the department has decided that they're going to be teaching, which is very nice because I know apparently sometimes people forget, or when the quarter begins, they need a reminder. The teaching call form, though, the all-important teaching call form looks like this. Again, bits of this are customizable, so the unavailabilities, which is this here, might not exist if you turn that off, of course. But to create a preference, if I just go into, say, winter quarter, and I click to add a preference, it has all of my options, and it automatically populates the courses that are on that course schedule that you saw minutes ago. I can also go ahead and type in a new course, and again, since the system's a little slow, it might not come up right away. So let's just not do that. I'll do a buyout and teach ECS 163, for instance. And I can even reorder my preferences. You'll see it says number 1 and number 2, and this information is communicated back to the department, so you know someone would prefer to teach this over that. And you can reorder these, of course, just by dragging and dropping. I can indicate my unavailabilities again here just by painting. So maybe if I don't get up until 11, I'll just go ahead and block out this amount of time. And then probably till 12 because I have to drive. So that's what that would look like. And you can quickly copy it to the other quarters too just by hitting this little copy button. Except it's broken apparently. And I can also leave myself additional comments. So anything not captured by this form, the text box down there will have. So ECS 163 in the winter is more or less what I've indicated here. I'll go ahead and hit submit. And you can see it even tells me I've submitted preferences. So now, putting on my academic coordinator hat, if we go back to the teaching call page here, you'll see this information is reflected. Here's my name. I've submitted preferences. If I left any messages, it would appear here. And typically what we do now, we have our courses, we've called for preferences. The next thing to do is to actually make decisions, to actually make teaching assignments. And that's what this page is for. This page will show you all of your courses. And you can also look at the same information by instructor, so whichever one makes more sense to you. But we'll look at it by course, and we'll go ahead and click perhaps here where it says assign, and I can see the various instructors I have, and I can go ahead and say, yes, I'll assign Janine to Art 2 in the fall. Or there's that ECS 163 course that I recall adding to the teaching call for myself. So if I go in here and find ECS 163, which surely must be here soon. Here it is. And go to assign, you'll see that the list is now partitioned. It actually says interested versus other, so you know who's interested in the course. And if I go to this person pivot view, where we're looking at it by instructor instead of by course, I see the exact same data here. I can go in here and it sees I'm interested in, again, ECS 163 and a buyout. So I can go ahead and just make those assignments. See their unavailabilities here, which is very useful. This information also appears on the next screen that I'm going to show you where you're actually doing the calendar, you know, what activity goes where. And then again, your standard download as Excel, print, filter, so on and so forth. So we've planned what courses we want, how many sections they're going to have. We've analyzed historical enrollment. We've made a teaching call. We're having a very productive St. Patrick's Day. We've assigned individuals, the instructors, to their courses. And the last step that we usually need before we communicate what we're doing to the registrar is to actually perform our scheduling. So I'll go in here to the winter quarter. And this is what our scheduling view looks like. You have your list of courses here on the left side, and then you have the calendar on the right side. And I believe we had, I'm going to go ahead and actually switch to a different department just because the data will be more interesting. So here's computer science. Here's Michelle's data. So this is real data. that I won't touch. And I can go ahead and click on any course. For instance, here's ECS 20. When I click on it, you'll see it shows me the activities now, because that's what we actually have to put on the calendar, right? The activities being the lectures, the discussions, the labs, the film viewings, the art studio, the dummy activity, which I've never seen used and I assume is not a real one. But this is what it would look like. As you can see, I can go and click, for instance, on the lecture here or on the lecture here. It'll bring up the same information, which is this little edit screen down here. And I can either indicate standard times or non-standard times. So if I do standard times, it knows the registrar's accepted time patterns for the 50-minute, the 80-minute, and the 110-minute courses. You know, if it's Monday, Wednesday, Tuesday, Thursday, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, it has all those, you know, standard patterns that you have to follow. So I'm not going to click anything here, but I could change the time. If this course is going to be offered in space that my department controls, I can also indicate the space, which I'm also not going to do. And again, you can go ahead and click here instead of here. It doesn't really matter which one you do. The filters, again, come in handy here. We can filter by instructor, or we can filter by courses. In this case, I've filtered down to the core courses. The reason this calendar is blank is because it becomes a mess when you turn everything on. So for instance, if I check these boxes, I can bring in the courses that I am interested in seeing all at once. And as you can see, we only have 5 courses here, and already it's becoming a bit unreadable. But that's more or less what that's for. And we have these little filters up here, kind of like an Amazon shopping filter. We can clear them out. And I'll just go ahead and reset all the data here. And just for fun, let's see what happens if we do turn them on. See, there you go. That's what it looks like when you turn them all on, so it's not very helpful. So this lets us now plan the various activities, actually put them on the calendar, and upload them to Banner, which is something that we hope is coming soon. We're working with the registrar's IT team on that. In the meantime, if you were to use IPA today and you finish your planning but you need to get this information into Banner, what we've developed is what we call a reconciliation report. So I will select, hopefully a good term here. Here we go. This takes a moment to compute because it actually is doing a fair bit of work. What this is it's showing us the difference between our data and what's in Banner. So you can see it's this very colorful report. If I were to click on any of these colors, for instance, this one here where it says no CRN, it's indicating that there's a difference between IPA and Banner because we don't have a CRN. But if I click this, it would say Banner has the CRN, it's 40079, would you like to apply that? And so you could go through and just kind of click on these color boxes like an iPhone game and clear them all out. And also, if there's anything that IPA has that Banner does not have, it will make a list for you. So then you can take that list, go into the Banner program, and enter all the information. And then hopefully next year, that process will be automatic. Next year, that list will just be inputted into Banner. But in the meantime, this colorful, fun report is what we have. And there are numerous other reports, as Michelle mentioned. We can get just a simple summary of our schedule here to select an interesting quarter for there to be interesting data. Teaching call response data, and various other reports. So this project is very much in development. We have a number of things that we're adding to it, but as you can see, we've already built a number of useful tools, and I think that for a lot of folks, this could save time or at least help better organize you. So that's more or less all of the demoable features. So I guess we'll open it up to questions. And I'll bring Michelle back up here for the questions. And before I forget, though, really quick, I need to get off computer science. There we go. Okay.
One thing before I forget that's one of the features that I like about IPA is that because it's web-based, you can access this anywhere. The faculty can also access it to be reminded about what their teaching schedule is. But you can also, when Christopher showed, when you're at that point of where you're matching the teaching preferences to what you need to teach, what I do is I actually open up 2 windows of IPA so that I have my courses list and we have our instructor list, and you can see both of them at the same time. So that has been helpful for us when we do that. So did you?
Yeah, I have a question. Maybe I missed it. I'm sorry. So when you when they're available. Usually what we do, we offer them the time frame that the registrar's office provides us, and that makes it much easier for us, instead of asking instructor, when you can teach, what time you want, and when they give you the time frames that totally doesn't work, that might be a problem. So
So,
if there is any way we can specify what's available for them to choose from, instead of saying, tell when you don't want to do it or when you want to do it.
the question is what happens if you want to, on the unavailabilities and availability section of your teaching call, if you don't want them to have to see 8 a.m. to 7 p.m. at night, but only a shorter period of time. It's not built to work that way, but I can, just off the top of my head, some suggestions would be don't use that. There's a box to click so that they won't see that calendar. And then how you gather that information now, you can continue to use that. Or or you could, and this may or may not work, every department is different, but you could go ahead and turn the calendar on, but when you send your teaching call out, and you include maybe your departmental specific information, you could mention, please remember that you can only teach between 9 a.m. and 5 p.m. on these certain days. So there might be some flexibility that you can work into the system, but
So you're saying that I can just give them a calendar and write a note, so even though you have all that choices, that's a time that you can choose from? Did I understand?
yeah, you can verbally through email tell them that this you're
The
limited.
system, the calendar system doesn't have that little comment section where I can just ask them, that's availability, you can choose whatever you want, but that's what you can choose from, those time frames.
Yeah, I should mention, I think what you're talking about is the feature where they go into the teaching call, and if you've already decided when a course is going to be,
Yeah.
as they're picking the course, they can see when it is, because that's part of their decision-making process. We've heard that from another department too, and I think it's something that we'll put on the roadmap. I don't know if it'll be available this year, but certainly if you do know what time a course is already going to be, it seems like a pretty good option that your instructors can see that when they
Well,
make their
for me,
decision.
it's more important to give them, let's say, the time frames that registrar's office teaches course, and it's okay to have the time when they taught it on the regular basis. But if I would say they don't like it and they want to switch next quarter, I would prefer to have the time frame Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, from this to that, or Tuesday, Wednesday, from that to that. So that will make our life easier, instead of emailing back and forth and back and
Right,
forth. It
right.
will create more problems.
Yeah, it's
We
something
need to be really specific about the time.
yeah, we can talk more about the future if you want to use IPA, and we'll figure out something that works.
Perfect, thank you.
Can you send out this PowerPoint presentation to all of us?
Yeah, we can put it on our website,
Yeah.
and,
Yeah.
Because I
We
missed
can
the
get it
first
there.
10 minutes, so that'd be great.
okay, yes.
On
Right here.
the schedule for departmental space, is there a way to see where there's conflicts, where that room has been assigned to two different courses at the same time?
So the question is that, is there a way to actually see room conflicts when you're actually in the scheduling piece and you're assigning your own spaces?
Yeah, and currently what you can do is on that calendar view, one of the filters is you can filter by location, and it'll show you all the activities in that location, so you can see if any of them are overlapping. That's what we currently have, and there are some departments, because they have a lot of their own space, they have more complex scheduling needs, and so another future plan we have is to do something more for people who have a lot of their own space and have needs like that.
Is there any additional steps you need to take to connect a banner to IPA? The way you were showing that you can see what is on banner, what's different on IPA?
No, it's automatic.
So repeat your question because I didn't quite understand.
I was wondering if there was any steps you needed to take to connect banner to IPA?
Oh, for no, it's all done. So is there any steps that a particular user has to take in order to make Banner and IPA talk to each other? So no, the system Christopher has built it so that it automatically uploads data on a regular basis into IPA. So you don't have to hit a button that says pull my stuff over kind of thing. Felicia?
Can you clarify what you mean by regular? Is it overnight dump? Is
It's
it
overnight.
It's an overnight
overnight dump?
And let me go back here real quick.
Me?
Yes.
So, for the, that's okay. I had my one question already. So, if we have, graduate groups, it's probably a stupid question, but I just want to confirm it. So I do my graduate group, my actual graduate group courses using this tool. But, as graduate groups, we have faculty that teach in all these other departments, right? Are we gonna be able to see, like, for an example, I have a history teacher that teaches one of our core courses. So, I schedule my geography classes, of course, she's gonna go in and teach, schedule one, she can teach her geography class. But will I be able to see what classes she's teaching in other departments if it's a conflict?
So the question is when we have instructors teaching in multiple, offerings, can you see if an instructor is teaching in physics versus geology or computer science?
Yeah, if they're a member of our grad group, that's scheduled to teach in my course.
Yeah, another roadmap feature that we have is basically I would like to track a course that I don't schedule for, So for instance, if you know the course that the instructor is going to teach, you can have it show up on your schedule even though you're not modifying it, you're just looking at it. So I think that would solve your problem if you simply add it to your tracking list.
And also what's,
So I understand that I'll be able to see my stuff, but will I be able to see if there's a conflict because she's having it with somebody else in
Yeah.
another class?
As long as you know the other courses that they're teaching, you can go ahead and add them to just track as like a read-only course on your schedule. But in terms of automatically knowing who's that one of your instructors is also teaching something outside of your department, as it stands right now, you'll still have to communicate that.
Through banner?
Just, as humans, as people.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
I'm 70 faculty in my program, so that's a lot of
Right.
yeah.
faculty trying to figure out what they're teaching.
Yeah,
Mhm.
another thing that we're hoping to capture are cross-listed courses and be able to deal with that issue as well. Yes.
Yeah, I'm kind of on the same page. So if there would be possible to add the tool that by instructor's name, we can pull the courses they teach, that would be totally amazing. Because I don't know half of the courses that they teach, and I don't want to know. I want to schedule my geography, and I want to make sure it doesn't overlap. So I don't need to know all the instructors live. But if you can pull what they teach by the name, that will be like totally
Exactly.
excellent.
Yeah, I know
Instead of
it's.
going through each course and,
Yeah.
yeah.
It's very possible, so long as someone has put that into Banner, it's very easy for us
Right.
to query. It's
But
something that we
if
should.
we can get this report from Banner,
Mhm.
and there is a query for that, but if you guys would be able to add in this system,
Right.
it would be in the future maybe.
But we can get that information from Desi too.
Well,
What
but the
courses
thing
they've
is,
taught.
if they're going to promote that
Yeah.
program and they want us to use it, it's nice to have all tools right there instead of jumping here and there,
Yeah.
and here and there.
No, I think it sounds like a really good feature.
Yeah, for
Yeah.
the future.
Yeah.
Thank you.
There was a question over here.
So what exactly is the timeline for this to speak to Banner? You said that you guys are working on it, but in terms of having that magic button.
To dump it
Yeah,
into
to
Banner,
dump it into Banner, like,
we're hoping for the 18-19
Yeah.
schedule
And
year.
maybe Jeremy, can you add anything to that?
I can say that we are actively working with the registrar's office. They have committed to providing us this, but they are going through a big upheaval in their IT organization right now. And so I have not been able to get a solid date scheduled, but they are committed to providing this soon.
We also are hoping that by more people using the system, it will be clear to them that this is a need across campus and not just a need for a few people. So the more people we have using the system, then, hopefully they'll get the message that it's important to us.
We'll have a year to play around with the system before it goes live. The magic button.
The magic button, yeah, and you don't have to use the magic button even when it is available. That's certainly, up to you. But yeah, you can go in it and play in it now. If you wanted to get access, you could put your 17-18 data in there. You can wait and use it for your 18-19 schedule. You can go in there and add winter and spring quarter of this year in there. You can, add that kind of information in there.
Will faculty be able to go in, like let's say faculty wants to teach geography 200 band, and faculty 2 wants to teach geography 200 band. Well, they want to teach it on the same day, and if they, somebody's already scheduled theirs for 200 band, the 200 band wants the same time and day. Can they go in there and override somebody else's?
No, the only access faculty have or instructors will have is to their teaching call page. They will not be able to, and you designate what kind of access people have. So, let's come here.
Well, that was sort of my question. Can faculty go in and see the whole fall schedule for our department?
Yes, so faculty can go in and see the whole schedule, whether it's fall, winter, spring, for a particular year. It could be the current year, it could be the future year, it could be a past year, once there's that historical data is built up, so they can
So they
see.
have viewing rights, but they can't change anything.
Correct.
So I have a question about grad groups. How is it going to pull faculty? Like, I'm in the plant sciences department, but I work with political to run new grad groups, so I have faculty who teach HRT classes that are in other departments. Am I going to be able to add them, search for them, even though they're not in the department?
Right, so the question is what do how do you capture all of the faculty that are gonna be teaching your classes? Where Christopher showed us towards the beginning, where you're listing the people and their roles, you actually bring in, you do a search, and it's based on PPS right now. So anybody in PPS, you can pull over into your list.
It's not limited to PPS either department.
Right.
Then kind of related, what about classes that are administered by more than one department? Not cross-listed classes.
So then so the question is what happens if you have a course that can be, that multiple departments have access to schedule? So everybody can access the tool at the same time, but you might choose that this department this year you're going to schedule just to keep maybe track of it, but you all have access, and you would have to work with Christopher in setting up your because he does go by your course like ECS and and those kinds of things, so you would have to coordinate that with Christopher as to what classes you want to see.
And if you have a sort of a work group that kind of crosses PPS boundaries, you can add yourself, say, to a second work group and have people from different departments added to it working together. Because if that's what you actually do, IPA, it's not stringent in terms of, it's only people in this one PPS group can work together. You can add in whoever you want.
Have you updated since it's driven by PPS, say we have a lecturer we want to hire or somebody that is not in PPS yet, is there a way to put in a?
Right.
A placeholder.
So the question is, so the question is what happens when the instructor you want to use is not in PPS yet? So you've got new hires that are coming, but you're still developing the list. So right now, there is not a way
Right.
to do that, but it's in the works. What I've done as a workaround right now is just use my name as a placeholder. We've talked about like there being a staff type notation, so that is something that is on the horizon to come in the future. I think there was somebody over here that's been,
So our teaching conferences are kind of like, we need these classes taught, but then also pick what electives you want to teach. So is there a placeholder going kind of the opposite direction from the way you were demonstrating it?
so the way that we do it, so the question is you have your core classes that must be taught, but then there's this other group of electives that faculty can choose whether or not they want to teach. So the way we have that same exact situation. So generally what we'll do is we include all of our core classes that we know we have to teach and some of those electives possibly that we know are popular, and we'll include it in our course offerings, that very first piece that we do. It goes into the teaching call, and when the faculty go in there, they'll see all the ones that we've pre-populated, but they will have access to all of the other elective classes. As long as they're pulled into your original list, they'll be able to see all of those. They can search, as Christopher started to demo, they can search for a class and they can pull it in. Let me go over here real quick.
This might be too early to ask, but is the goal with the banner push to be able to do everything? So you don't have to go into banner, like give it a course topic and schedule 299s and all of that, or?
So the question is how much of this data will actually be able to push back to banner? Christopher, do you want to, or Jeremy, but.
I mean, the sort of world domination goal is to ensure that no one has to use that banner program anymore. But in terms of like which particular fields we're gonna get in which dates, I don't know. We have, our roadmap goes out a year or two, and then so it's an idea, but we'll have to talk specifics if you're interested in doing that.
Okay.
I had a question related to when you populate all your classes for a quarter, if you're including all of those elective options, do you have to do that for each quarter, or is there an option to just keep repeating that set of classes for all of the quarters?
So the question is when you're populating your course offerings, do you have to literally enter fall, winter, and spring, or is there any way that you can do fall and populate it into winter? So what you can do is you can choose, like if you want to, if you're working on 17-18, you can choose to bring over the 16-17 data, which would be a starting point. And you have the option of pulling in certain things or not pulling them in to give you kind of that base to start with. Can they actually copy from one quarter to the other though? Okay.
Mhm.
So that is, you do have that ability as well. So you can kind of pull it in a lot of different ways. We've tried to make it flexible because we know everybody works differently. Yeah.
Yeah, so we
Come
can
back
plan
over here.
3 years ahead of time, like
Mhm.
everybody needs a plan for 3 years. So can you put out a call for 3 years?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So you can put out a call for multiple years at a time.
Yeah, you can plan courses. You can there's a little year selector that I didn't demo, but you can go into the future.
Okay. So over here was a question. Did you have a question over here?
Oh, sorry, yes. Sorry if this question is too granular, but I have faculty with a lot of affection for non-pattern classes, and is this going to choose to patterns, or will they still be able to just do that weird 1 hour lecture that's hour and a half on a Monday before all their labs and stuff like that?
So will faculty have the ability to continue to choose their least amount of teaching that they can get away with? I mean, this isn't a way to force them necessarily to be better citizens and abide by the university recommended time frame. I think that ends up falling on the department. So they can select or not select if you choose not to use that schedule piece. And they could say, I'm only available this, but when you get to the teaching piece and you're scheduling, you still have the ability to schedule outside of their unavailability or availability that they list. Oftentimes in our class, they'll tell us they only want to teach Tuesday, Thursday from 11 to 3. And we can't fit every class in that time frame. And so what we've done is we just keep track of it and we trade off. You can only teach on Tuesday, Thursday, twice a year or once a year. And so we handle it that way. But the tool itself is not going to be able to stop them from choosing the non-standard times.
That's what I was talking about. It's nice to give them just time frames and that's it, instead of just giving them whatever they want to choose or something.
Okay, so we've made note of that. And so Tao in computer science, she actually handles our teaching piece of it. So she's been scheduling the classes. So she has some more input.
So when it comes to the teaching call, the instructors can put notes in their teaching call saying like, yeah, I wanted to teach these classes and I prefer these specific times. However, as the scheduler, you are the only one that can actually schedule the specific times of the classes. And so there are the registered preferred times that says Tuesday, Thursday for these 80-minute time blocks. But then there's also the non-standard button. So if you want to schedule something, if a particular faculty member says, I really want to teach 2 80-minute classes on Monday, Wednesday, then you can put that in there. But you would be the one entering it in, and you'd be the one saying, yes, I can do this to them, or no, I can't.
So when you send out the teaching call, if you've already entered your classes for that quarter, when the faculty are choosing the courses they want to teach, do they see what times you have already entered for those?
So, no, so the question is when the faculty are going in and filling out their teaching preferences, can they see the days and times that you've already selected for those courses? No.
No, but that's an idea that we're tracking for the future. Because I think it would be helpful for a number of departments.
Yeah, and the thing is every department, again, does things so differently. So in my case, we haven't even scheduled the classes at that point when we're doing the teaching call. Yes.
Okay, so, and I don't even know if this is a relatable question when this goes live, but, so, once this goes live and we're using this and the courses get scheduled and everything, will that link to the Canvas system so that the course setup for the instructor's course will be set up in Canvas?
So the question is will IPA link to the Canvas tool?
So Banner links to Canvas.
Yeah.
So IPA links to Banner, Banner links to Canvas, so
Okay, so
that's how
that
that
won't
is
be
supposed to
broken
work, but there wouldn't be any direct link between IPA and Canvas.
So what do you mean by setting up the so in Canvas, every course that's in Banner automatically has a course site set up?
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify that that wasn't being broken up by this, that's it.
Okay. Yes.
After you schedule the classes for a quarter, does an email go out from the IPA system that says, hey, faculty, you're scheduled to teach these classes? Or is there a way to communicate to them, hey, this is what you're teaching, can you email me back if it looks wrong?
Right. So the question is there a communication tool to communicate with the faculty what the teaching schedule, what you've developed as your teaching schedule, whether it's a draft or the final? So yes.
Yeah, if they log in, they'll see whatever's been confirmed in terms of automatically emailing them. It doesn't do that, but that's a pretty good idea. So something we could add pretty easily.
So as it stands right now, what we might do is just email our faculty to say that, we've completed the teaching assignments. You can log in and see them. Or what we also do is we'll just download it into an Excel sheet and then attach that to an email so that everybody can see the whole schedule and not just their piece. Yes.
What can faculty do when they're filling out a teaching call if they don't see on the list the course they want to teach?
So what do faculty do when they're filling out their teaching call? They don't see the course that they want to teach. So there is a blank button at the top, a box that they can actually type in the course, and it'll search through Banner. As long as it's in Banner, it'll come up.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
What if it's not in Banner?
If it's not in Banner, then it's typically not an approved course. And so if you do like a 189 because you don't have an actual course number for it, you could do that. Is there a particular situation where you might have a course that you? And what you could do is like if it's a course that's not approved and you're offering it as a 189, you put it as a 189, and then once it's approved, you can go in and change it to the right course number that it's going to be.
Oh, okay. Well, what we do right now is when we send out our teaching call, that's when faculty start to let us know whether or not they want to teach a new course.
Yeah, and so, yeah, in the comments box, they could write in there that I want to teach this new class, and whatever it is. And then when you get that teaching call back and you're going through mapping it to what the classes that you need to teach are, then you can just create your 189 at that point, add it to the overall course, and then populate them as the instructor.
And another question, where does IPA, what's the word, pull its course information from? So when you go to courses and you see that long list, where did that populate from?
So the question is, where does the course information populate from? And is it directly from Banner, or is it talk to ICMS?
It's directly from Banner,
So-
and when you first log in, the schedule is actually blank. You have the option to import your schedule from Banner, but you either import it, roll it over, or you just directly manipulate it. Because unfortunately, there's no place in Banner that says this department controls these courses, strangely enough.
So from Banner, is it all courses you've ever taught, or just from the last year?
It's up to you. If you want to pull them in one by one, if you want to pull in all the courses for a subject code, if you just want to copy from last year, you'll have to basically set it up the first time you log in, decide how you want to do it. Yeah, we actually investigated that, and unfortunately, Banner does not track this individual last year put these 30 courses in. It's strangely not in there. So otherwise, we would absolutely have built it that way.
Any other questions? So we will continue to work on the tool. Like we mentioned, we have a couple modules that they're working on right now. Anybody is able, if they want, to use the system. All you need to do is email ipahelp@ucdavis.edu. Yeah.
Is there some kind of a deadline to express interest in piloting?
Is there a deadline to express interest in piloting? No.
No, whenever
No.
you decide.
Yeah, I mean, that's the other thing, every department kind of starts their teaching schedule at different times. So whatever works best for you is when, we'll get you started.
So let's say we start trying it and we decided we like Banner more. It doesn't matter, the festival will go live anyway, and doesn't matter how much we like Banner, it will eventually go away, or
No.
when we have to use that system, when
No.
we must start using it.
So the question is what if we don't like IPA, we don't want to use it, we just want to stick with Banner and the way we currently do things?
I don't think we have to answer that, do we? No.
So, no.
No, this is purely complimentary. So you could ignore this tool entirely. There's no plans to retire the Banner tool.
It's
So,
just interesting to try, but I always want to know that I have a backup plan.
sure.
Yeah.
No, I understand.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thanks for coming.
Okay.